I started in Season 1, and it wasn't until like 1.5 years ago I started to play jungle. Back then I played mid, but I was not very good, so I had to change my role to keep climbing the elo, because at the time I thought it was easy, but also that you had a lot of power, because at the time the meta in the jungle was carries like Kha'Zix and Lee Sin, and I like to do a lot of damage and carry.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the European LCS. On stage to close out the week's games are Splyce and Giants. Well, Splyce, new team, of course, coming into this split. Then they have a coach that you know very well, Jankas, and we feel as a team that sometimes they choose comps that are too hard to execute for how young they are as a team. And we'd like to get your input on what do you think of Yamato as a coach and then coaching a brand new team.
Oh, well, I think Yamato overall is a great coach and a great person. So I would believe in Yamato picks and buys every time, basically. I think he has some experience working with us, some experience working with MIM, obviously like with us a bit more. So maybe that's why he decides the more like skillful champs and harder to kind of pull off. But at the same time, we have to remember that Splyce is full Danish team. So they shouldn't have like any problems with communication at all, you know. So if they decide those team comps, that means it has to work in scrims, you know. Like no coach would go for something that they didn't test and they just want to try it out. Yeah, maybe they should try something easier, but in this particular matchup, I think Splyce has upper hand. Like last time we saw them playing, they were playing with kind of like focus around mid, and it worked out, so yeah.
If you look at coaches, there's basically two types of coaches. One that caters to the strength of the players, and some other coaches that have like an idea of how League of Legends has to be played. Splyce members have come out and said, well, we need to play the way Yamato wants us to play. Was that similar for you guys when you had him coaching you? Did he just say, like, this is my preferred style of League of Legends, you guys will now have to learn how to play it? Or did he try and work towards your strengths?
I guess kinda. So for the first few days, he would just watch us play, and then he would kind of learn how do we play as a team. And then, yeah, like he wouldn't exactly force us to play, but when he was trying to explain us how the game works, it actually made sense compared to the last coach that we had back then, which was Daki. So we did trust Yamato, and I think his approach to the game is good. So yeah, basically it, you know.
Yeah, I do think like Splyce is like one of the bottom teams right now, but they still do have this certain structure to their play, which Rocket and Giants are still lacking. So maybe that is like the hand of Yamato guiding them a bit.
Yeah, we will see what they can do in this matchup. Giants, of course, coming off a victory yesterday. We'll see if they can keep it going. The team's already on stage, so we're going to head inside and hit the rift.
Thank you very much, Shox. I just want to give a special thank you to everybody watching, especially in the audience. These guys are a bit crazy. I've got a special thank you to Rene from Mexico. He's taken a day off of his honeymoon to actually come and watch the LCS. I was going to say, muchos gracias.
Yeah, congratulations as well from us. Clearly very excited. And I'm excited to get this game underway.
So am I. So let's kick off the team rosters. Looking at the blue side, it is Splyce with Wonderware in the top lane, Trashy in the jungle, Senkux in the mid lane, Cobby the AD carry, and Nisbet the support.
On the red side, it is the team that have managed to tie themselves up now in 9th place. They got their first win yesterday. It is the Giants with Atom in the top lane, Batinyoke in the jungle, Xpepi in the mid lane, Adri as AD carry, Godfred in support with their coach Lothar.
So we're about to jump into picks and bans. I really like what the analyst desk was saying with regards to Splyce's sort of communication problems and playing team comps that are actually quite difficult to pull off. Maybe overreaching what their actual team capabilities are. And yesterday, Giants were able to punish a team that overreached. They beat Rocket despite being behind for a long period of the game. So for Giants, Audrey was very positive after the interview and said, look, this is a turning point.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he had reason to be.
Yeah.
Because not only from a team performance, but from a personal performance as well, he stepped up much better compared to the last couple of weeks of play. So there has been improvement this week, and they were in a situation where one good week can turn around their fortune. So we'll see now if they can continue it with a second win in a row. It would tie them up for 8th place.
It really would. And this, without maybe being too offensive, could be the only weekend that Giants could look to go 2-0. They're playing both Rocket and Splyce, who are around them. The only other team that's still down there in that, part of the bracket would be Elements. And, for Giants, let's see if they can make this a 2-0.
Yeah, and we just saw what Rocket failed with against Elements, so Elements playing that game out pretty well. So that would be a tough matchup, but nevertheless in this one, if Splyce go kind of safe, go with what they know, I feel like they can take this game relatively quickly. But then the Giants, we never know which team's going to show up right now. Whether it's going to be the team from yesterday that somehow get like a Baron steal and then take a Baron for themselves, or whether it'll be the team that really don't put up any kind of fight.
Yeah, the spirit of El Bandito channeled through Batong Yoka. Helped Giants lost, picking up a couple wins. But you can't rely on that if that's your strategy. Targeted bans is the name of the game today. Stress. Splyce have taken off Brom, Malphite, and Callista. The Potato Cannon, Yamato Cannon on the left there, helping guide Splyce's hand. Whereas Poppy, Gangplank, maybe Alistair?
Possibly. It depends on whether they want to take the Tahm Kench away from Wonderwear. It's not a high priority pick right now, but it's certainly one that Wonderwear has been very good on when he's got it. Probably one of the only champions he's to the level that Splyce have needed him at. Has struggled a lot with a lot of his other champions, but I guess there's one champion for Splyce that has stood out way more than the rest of them, and that is Senkux, no longer with the LeBlanc.
Well, yes, it is a valuable ban. Been played twice by Senkux. He's actually only given up one death. He's 11-1-8. And I respect that, but it's interesting because Pepe was the kind of player who would go toe-to-toe with any mid laner last year.
That's
the key point, isn't it?
Yeah. Yesterday he had a good game as well. I mean, his performance, he was on the Victor, I believe it was, yesterday. Had a decent game. Did exactly what Giants needed him to do. Question is, can he do it against Senkux, who has shown that he can put on massive performances, but has also shown his weaknesses that we saw in Challenger as well.
He needs to do it again. I mean, deep champion pools here for Senkux, for Nisbet, for Wonderwear, 5, 6, 7 champions across the table, trying to find a gameplay or a style that sticks. And they've not found it yet. So let's see what they decide on. If the Lucian gets locked in the second rotation, then you can be sure that Senkux will take Corki mid. Alistair and Nidalee. For Giants, you can build anything around that.
Yeah, that is a very standard 1-2 punch for the draft right now out of the Giants, as is the Corki Lucian setup. This is obviously now Senkux going Corki mid. Lucian, well, actually, it could be top lane. I don't think Wonderwear will play Lucian in the top lane. It's much more likely to be going.
I feel like that was a one-and-done kind of scenario. Lucian top with Cabo.
Maybe. The thing is, you can never tell.
Yeah.
Right? Is it could just come back out and surprise a week later somebody else is playing it.
It really could, especially when you look at Atom, who's not really taken to this top lane on the stage. He was plucked out of solo queue, little to no real competitive experience in the history, and has struggled to go toe-to-toe with some of his opponents. Let's see what he's going to play. He's got the counter-pick opportunity.
Yeah, they're giving him the counter-pick, but going for a fair amount of poke here, have the Ahri to kind of glide them through until the Ezreal is strong enough to end the game potentially for Giants. That's a long way off in the future, but they do have the Nidalee. They've got the Ezreal as well. There's a good carry setup for the Giants right now.
It's going to be tough to stick to them. Every single one of those champions has some form of mobility, or Alistair's got to be a champion or a minion, but there's dashes and dodges and ducks that they can pull off. So let's see how mobile Giants can play. No front line to speak of outside of Alistair's ultimate. The timed window. And for Splyce, they got a couple seconds left. The Tahm Kench is being hovered. It was not banned away.
The same can be said for Splyce when it comes to top lane right now until they lock in picks. That is the Fiora locked for Wonderwear. Now, do they go for this Tahm Kench and play around protect Kobby, protect Senkux, one of those two carries? They do lock it in. Although I feel like I'd prefer it if Wonderwear was on it. Of course, Tahm Kench did have nerfs. Damage was reduced. So
pushing him a little bit more to that support role, or dealing with the troubles.
From what we've seen, yeah. Actually, we're expecting it maybe to go not quite so far off everybody's radar, but a lot of teams have stopped picking up the catfish. Not getting caught out.
Less so, I think, is fair. You can see, though, what's that pick rate? 26%. 13 out of 50 games saw a lot of play earlier in the split. What do Giants reply? They know it's going to be into Fiora. Atom's played a couple of carries.
Poppy's not available.
Cannon, maybe, would do well into Fiora. Seen it before. He's played it before.
Off the table as well. So we did see a Maokai in Challenger a week and a half ago. I believe we also saw it in the LCS. I think Freddy122 played it. With that Grasp of the Undying. Normally good into AP champions, but just has a lot of sustain available with Grasp of the Undying. Can obviously go the armor-heavy route as well. And that has been locked in, so it gives them the engage. I like this whenever you're running these kind of sieging compositions. It gives you an additional option for Atom now in the top lane. He can kind of hold his own top for a while in the game, then look to teleport in with a little bit of an engage potential from that.
And I'm also a fan of just the point-and-click route.
Yep.
It reduces the risk of problems. It is fairly telegraphed, though, so Wonderware, we'll see if he can get that riposte off and how the non-targetable dash in route form. It's always a fun interaction to watch.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, in this kind of matchup, you just have to run up, hope he uses his riposte when you ground smash him. Otherwise, he gets disrupted anyway, and you slow him down, you start wailing on him with auto attacks. So it's not quite as simple as just Wing in. I don't expect to see Atom just Wing in randomly all that much, but...
Not just yet, anyway. I like the setup, and for Splyce, this is a team that's actually given a lot of their 15 to 30 minute CS to Wonderware. He tends to clean up those side lanes very frequently, and that could be very beneficial on a champion like Fiora. If he's able to get a little bit ahead of this Maokai, if he can start pushing Maokai around, that can be a very clear route to the Nexus for Splyce, if you believe that hashtag spy win.
Hashtag spy win, well, I spy with my little eye. Hashtag Giants win on the red side. So we'll see who, in fact, is going to get this one. Make sure you get those tweets in at LCS Esports. Use the hashtags. Let's figure out, are Giants going to be 8th, or will it be Splyce holding on to their 8th position?
Will they have a 2-0 week? Let's see. That's a big confidence boost for Giants, for an organization that has been struggling for a while now. And it's going to start by this early lane decision. Do they want to go toe-to-toe, Maokai into Fiora, or rather Ezreal Ali into Lucian Tomkinch?
I mean, the weird thing about Maokai lanes is now that the Grasp of the Undying plus is passive, it means you very rarely get forced out of lane. You just sit there with health potions and a Doran's ring, and you have enough health, you have enough mana, you have just the ability to just sit in the lane. And very difficult. Pulse went on a rant on Challenger this week about how double Doran's ring synergizes incredibly well with Maokai. I'm not going to get too far into it, but I'm not starting his rant, don't worry. I'm not going to do that. But nevertheless, that's the kind of build you expect to see out of Atom. It just makes it so that you can't force a Maokai out of lane very easily in the 1v1.
Well, more diversity in those Keystone Masteries. Last game here of week 5. Oh. We are on 6.2.
Earthquake.
Yeah, a little bit of an earthquake. I think the Observer's having a little too much fun today.
What, you mean Steve Cam wasn't warranted, Trevor? Nevertheless, hey, not in this game. Okay, let's get back. It's on Giants. We've got a lane swap. So, it's Australia lanes for now. You can see Maokai headed bot side. You can see Splyce on the other side. Wonderware and Trashy starting on their Krugs. So we are going to end up in those inverted lanes.
We can see Godfred going to somewhat challenged timing, look for where Trashy might be. Doesn't find any opposition inside Splyce's jungle, nor vision. So they can deduce that Trashy started on the bottom quadrant. And we'll see how these two teams handle. I kind of feel like this low level is definitely going to go in favor of Wonderware. Atom needs time to build up the sustain, so as long as Wonderware is playing aggro.
He does. This means Atom has to obviously play around that passive fairly heavily right now. Has a couple of health potions, has used one already, but is waiting for that number of abilities to tick up so you can just land an auto and push the Fiora back away with his Q as well. So it's tough for the first couple of levels, but as soon as he gets access to all of his abilities, Fiora realistically can't trade too effectively, otherwise she risks getting locked down for a while and losing the health trade like this.
Oh,
but Atom,
well, there you go. Passive from Maokai, plus some help from Grasp of the Undying, and Atom's got a very big minion wave pushing towards him as well. Even though he's down in CS, you have to count the minions on the floor that he can still bend over and pick up. All that gold that falls.
Stand up in that situation that Kobe was talking about, where there's gold on the floor, but you can't pick it up.
Just got to pick it up.
But, just farm it.
Peppy, for the time being, being chunked out. Again, also something you expect. The Corki into Ari.
Yep.
He should have some bullying room until Pepe gets access to Spirit Rush.
Yeah, we talked with Perks from G2 last week about this. Until you get level 6 on Ari, it's kind of a difficult lane just to survive through. So no real surprises there. Yeah. Trying to get onto that damage onto Audrey, but only the one Devour stack, so no real all-in potential there.
Big burst though. Kobe and Nisbet landing piercing light on tongue
okay,
lash.
Pepe's got to start dodging those a little bit more. I mean, we are on a very low ping environment, so if you're on the edge of that phosphorus bomb, it is
Possible.
to dodge out. A little bit surprised to have seen him take 3 or 4 of those already.
And this is just kind of the problem that Giants are facing, is that they have mechanically somewhat fallen off from what we saw last year. Now, I don't want to harp on that too much because yesterday they actually had a mechanical steal from Batong a mistake from Rocket, etc. And Giants were able to then, punish Rocket and pick up a win. Break that losing streak. Was at 8 games. With Rocket losing earlier, they now have a 9-game losing streak. But Giants have to continue some of that positivity and good calls from yesterday into today's game.
You got to use the power of positivity, Trevor. That is how you make sure that your team can rock it in the LCS. Problem is, hard to be positive at times. I know Giants as an organization were like, look, you guys, our fans, were a little bit unhappy with us. We're even more unhappy with ourselves. They put out a big press release last week and seemed to have turned things around coming into this week, but now Atom in this bottom lane had Trashy warded out, so will deter the gank. So for now, things are all quiet on the front for Giants.
All quiet on the eastern front or bottom lane.
Yeah, I was going to go with that, but I was I'm leaving it.
I was looking at it, I'm like, geographically that actually makes sense. It's probably southeastern, actually, if you want to get
See, this is why I left it, Trevor.
Yeah.
See?
I didn't have the internal debates previously. I was just like, I'm going to say it.
Trust me, I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work out too well.
No, I should contemplate things a little more. And just trading and farming back and forth. Even Stevens across all of the lanes here. Atom marginally behind Wonderwear, but there is a wave pushing into him. And recall. Let's see if that second Dawn's Ring is picked up. Oh, not yet. Oh, Pulse will be disappointed.
Yeah, he will be. Oh well, it's fine. He's just going Catalyst.
Yeah.
He's just going to try and rush there. He's not really being pushed out too heavily. He's down on CS, but hasn't really struggled so far. Wonderwear did just hit level 6 though, so Atom does have to be careful of any attempted all-in if he's pushed too far forward.
I mean, there has to be quite a monumental mistake for any of these lanes really to have troubles.
Yeah.
Pepe's now 6, he's got to get out of jail free card. Alistair, Ezreal, so difficult to kill them.
Yep.
If Kobe's in trouble, he'll just get gobbled by Nisbet. Like, all of these tools of safety.
Even with jungle pressure, like, you're not going to get a kill mid lane. You've got Devour plus the Alistair top lane. So on both sides, they're very neutral when it comes to the ability of, or the amount of kill pressure.
Well, there's jungle involvement now, but Songyok is going to be the first one to come on to the
I'd
top.
move forward into this.
He did, but Kobe's not backed away. Godfrey, he can flash for this, and he does! Flash pulverize, headbutts with Nisbet backwards. Grey health is ticking down, 200. Grey health has been chowed. Ignite is burning and summon a heal. Nisbet, both summoners blown away. Kobe gets exhausted. Godfrey a little afraid for Batong Yoka's life. And they trade. Duo supports summoners.
Yeah, flash for flash plus the heal from Kobe came out there. They also got the read on Trashy being topside as well. So it now gives Batong a little bit of time to go recall. He knows there's not too much danger. The problem is this was right in line with the red buff timing coming up for Batong, so he now has to forego that. We'll have to check it out in a moment, but the fact that Senkux is roamed up from mid lane tells the story there.
Yeah.
That they're in their jungle, you can't really go aggressive. Baton goes down into the bottom side jungle. Maybe going to try and look to deep ward on the lower side for Splyce just to compensate for that. See if you can get a read onto when Trashy goes for his red, but he's not going for red, he's gone for mid.
Very good charm from Pepe. He manages to sidestep the cocoon. And Splyce, I think props to them. They read the situation top to steal the jungle camps away. Now Giants trying to reply in kind. They've grouped up with Batong and Atom pushing into the jungle, but there is a potential for altercation here, Stress, if Splyce can decide to contest.
Yeah, they know Trashy's there. Trashy will clear out the ward with that razor sharp buff, and it means Batang gets out of there with his life. Isn't really phased. They had Atom around, had already walked up from the bottom lane as well. So at this point, Giants fairly controlled. Splyce do have themselves a lead from the farming predominantly in that top lane, 73 CS to 52. Wonderware, we talked about how much CS he gets later into the game. He hasn't been pressured in the beginning of the game. 8 minutes in, there has been almost no jungle pressure shown towards what would be our top lane matchup here. And Wonderware, that's where he struggles. He's had so many games where people have been in his lane and he's been unable to survive through the ganks. This game so far has not been an issue.
None whatsoever. Got that Jorum's Fist already. So, a little bit of healthy tankiness. And I want to see how Audrey and Godfred handle this duo lane now, because almost every time we've glanced up, it's felt like Cobby's landed a Piercing Light and multiple autos onto Audrey. And that's going to be way scarier with a BF sword and 2 longswords. So, you know, Audrey's looking to stay at arm's length and just say Mystic Shot, Mystic Shot, Mystic Shot, whereas Cobby, he's going to have the, kill potential if Audrey takes too much damage.
Yeah, and you also, as you we talked about, if any time Giants go aggressive, Cobby, wow, that's, as you said,
I rest my case.
It's a lot of damage that's going to come out here, and if Audrey doesn't trade back effectively, which is difficult now with the Sheen only and the Tier, you expect him not to have too much damage. If Giants ever try and trade, Devour just comes out from Nisbeth. Pulls them back away, nothing really to happen in that duo matchup. But bottom lane, Batang finally going to try and focus some attention down onto Wonderware. Lands the spear.
Wow, that was a flash into the root. They're going to dash forward. Batang looking to leap. There was a peel backwards as Trashy left from top lane. A long range leap. Batang first blood.
On the first time the jungle pressure is shown onto Wonderware, it crumbles. The flash engage out of Atom. Wonderware was even roaming up because he felt like it was coming. He was going to place a ward down, even got it, but it was too late. It was already there. Nidalee had already got herself through the river. Just seconds too late from Wonderware. That is the first kill on the board for this game.
It's a lot of attention top lane, Stress.
Oh, yes.
Trashy's hanging out behind Audrey and Godfred. There's a teleport available for Atom. It started to channel. The cocoon catches Audrey. He did not flash away. Still alive as the exhaust is on Trashy. A challenge has been issued. Not on Sid yet. Senkax is moving after Audrey and takes him down. Splyce get themselves a kill, and everybody was in that top lane.
Yeah, Atom appeared with the teleport as well, but Audrey got bound behind his turret by that cocoon, and it's easy pickings for Splyce at that point to go aggressive. They return the favor on the gank, this time on the top side, trying to focus out one of the weaker points for the Giants. They feel that Tia Ezreal right now not really able to fire back, and you can see that Audrey rather... Seriously? Seriously?
Yamato gonna be happy with that tower dive top lane.
He's not going to turtleneck on today.
No.
Not very tactical.
It was Tactical Turtleneck, the Tactical Neck, brought to you by Yamato Cannon and Splyce. And they're 1-0 against Giants, right? They beat them the last time they played. Splyce, in theory, have looked a little better, but they've had the same problems that Giants have had. They're not growing, they're not developing, we're not seeing these developments. I do think that they're playing more aggressively, at least Cobby and Nisbet this game. So let's see if they can spearhead with Cobby.
So I have this really weird analogy right now about what I feel about Splyce, because they're trying to grow. It's like they're trying to put on platform shoes to make themselves feel taller. And when you take them back off by trying to use all of these different strategies, you're still the same height. You're still at the same level you were. You were just pretending to try and be higher for a while. And honestly, I feel like Splyce have a good kind of grounding on the game when they're playing simpler strategies. I feel like watching them, they're actually not the same team that we see when they're trying to go too far too quickly. But they're just trying so many things.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think if you look at the current comp, it's relatively easy to understand. Try to enable Wonderware to split push, and use Nisbet to save whoever gets caught. We'll see if they can pull it off. And of course, the fact that Lucian, Corki, and Fiora are just going to come to life in the mid-game will be very, very useful for them. Atom's doing a little bit of thrift shopping. Got himself the Glacial Shroud immediately after Catalyst. Get some armor. He was struggling somewhat, and he may continue to struggle if Trashy's here first. But Tongyok is coming in from behind. It's a 2v2. Grand challenge onto Atom. He's jumped onto Trashy. Trashy will repel up, buy as much time as he can. But Tongyok leaps back in and then puts some damage onto Wonderwear. Oh, very close on that Cocoon. Two-shot barrage also comes out from Audrey, but to no avail.
Didn't pop any tags or flashes in that engage in the top lane. Wonderwear, his was still down, but managed to get himself away in Splyce. Again, come out without losing anything in that engage. It's just constant pressure though onto Wonderwear, just the attempt, but it's bottom lane. This is what we need to see from Peppy. He's gone over a ward. Nisbeth does have the Devour. They have to catch out the Taumkench.
Look for the charm. He's held the trigger, fires it, and Kabi walks away. Peppy roaming, unsuccessful this time. And this is also something, if I remember correctly, Perks talked about, saying if you can roam, you can kill some of the other lanes.
Well, you can. Oh.
Or vice versa. Peppy's low on mana, gonna be in trouble. Senkax is looking to chase. There's an exhaust available for Senkax, but he is also out of mana. And Peppy just takes a beating and walks away. Trashy. If the Cocoon finds Batong, it does not. Meaning Splyce have to back away.
Apparently not so good at hide and seek. Just better at that Ice Spy. But Flash was used by Nisbeth in that engaged bottom lane. Nisbeth knew exactly what he had to do there. All he's got to do is cross behind the minion wave, because he is the key safety net for Kobbe. So it doesn't matter whether Kobbe gets charmed there. No damage can come out that fast that Kobbe dies before Nisbeth is able to devour him.
Heads up play from Nisbeth. Playing his role well. And this game is still very, very close. Giants, despite having a tower advantage, they're only 600 gold up. Don't feel that is a very large amount. Especially not at 15 minutes. Take a look at the items. Iceborne Gauntlet picked up for Audrey. Abyssal Scepter for Peppy. Almost Triforce for Senkax. And the Essence Weaver for Kobbe.
Oh, package used by Senkax. Probably about to time out. That's normally what we'll see from any time Corki uses a package that wasn't an engage like that. So we're seeing Audrey go for the Iceborne Gauntlet before finishing his Muramana. Typically, you'll just see that if there's no pressure to get damage right now. So Audrey's going to aim for that damage a little bit later, but has the utility, has a little bit of extra when it comes to his ability to clear out waves in front of him. It's only a minor amount, but bottom lane, once again, we're seeing Bettingerke look for a gank.
Godfred, another flash pulverize, catches Nisbet. Grey Health is the target. Kobbe shoots out the Culling sideways, but doesn't really find a target. Teleport cancelled by Wonderwear. Peppy's joined in for the fight. Nisbet has devoured Kobbe and runs under the tower. Spits him back out in safety, and Giants fail everything.
Wonderwear cancelled his TP to stay top lane. They knew the solo target would be safe from Kobbe. It means that Wonderwear can push. Senkax can push here as well. A lot committed by the Giants into the bottom lane. They will get the tower from it, but I feel like they're going to lose at least top in the process.
Let's find out if it's a 1-for-1 tower trade. But Splyce come out ahead with pressure. Is still an advantage in their favor. Giants have not opted to back just yet. And as you mentioned, Stretch, Wonderwear gets top. Senkax got the mid outer turret down to about 20%. Maybe a little less. So it won't be too long before that is then toppled over as well.
And from what we've seen so far in this game, Giants are relying on their single target engage when it comes to the likes of the Maokai. Yes, there have been a couple of Q flashes on Godfrey, but it's only been against Taumkench twice, which is one single target. And you know, if you can't blow up that target quick enough in the the likes of Kobbe, it just means that Nisbet's going to come over, devour him, walk away, and Giants use all of their engage, including now a Righteous Glory, all trying to go for that engage.
Real old school item build here from Atom. When he was still relevant, Maokai was still relevant last year. I corrected
was wondering where that was going.
I corrected it. When Maokai was still a top tier top laner. We'll see how Atom can make use of that, especially with the engage potential. But it's tough, isn't it? When you've got a Taumkench that, Cocoon finds Peppy and follows up with damage. When you've got a Taumkench support to deal with, you kind of don't want to focus him, but you kind of have to. Because if you try to focus somebody else, he just devours him. So
you got to.
So
You've got to take him out, and he just only gets tankier. Thankfully, it's support Taumkench, so he's less tanky than top lane Taumkench normally would get to. But speaking of Maokai and his prevalence last year, I mean, Maokai has always been a champion that has basically one thing and does it very well, and that's engage. I guess two things, because then he protects the team with the ult from that. But he's not exactly the most complex champion to run in a team composition. It's like, can we engage? If yes, go. If no, don't go. It's quite nice. If you're ever playing dynamic queue and you're like, we need a top laner and we've got a neutral lane, what do we do? Let's go for simplicity's sake and go for a Maokai.
Yeah. Binary champion, maybe.
Very, very simple when it comes to decision making. Not a whole lot of difficult decisions to be made.
Hobby chunks down Audrey just a little with the use of the culling. Sends a little love tap his way while pushing the wave out. 181 CS to 153, so that lane pressure and the multiple ganks in that lane, it's still paid off with Cobby being in the lead. Giants will have the teleport back shortly, but they invested so much for a dragon gain. That was the difference, because they traded towers, traded some summoners and whatnot. But for Giants, it's a difficult situation to run the risk of repeating.
It is. I'm looking at kind of what has been done in the last few minutes. I mean, neither team has really utilized anything like the Rift Herald too much, that Doom's Eve. Normally for Doom's Eve, that means we need to reassess where the crisis is. But at this point, Giants, they're trying to hold on. They've got this extra wave clear, a little bit more from Adri in this middle lane on the Ezreal. He's now got his 2 items completed. 161 CS is a little bit down, but to be honest, these have been better performances out of Adri than we've seen from him so far. And again, we're at this 20-minute mark, just about. And Adri is, significantly less behind than he has been in previous weeks.
Yeah, still down 30 CS, I'm afraid.
Yeah, he is still behind.
But he was in a matchup that always needed time to scale, right?
Sure.
So you have to factor in at least some level of behindness. Deficit? That would be a better word. Some level of deficit that he's going to find himself in. Those were long games earlier today. Those were some long games earlier today, Stress.
Marathon man.
I'm running out of words. See?
With 4 games today, maybe Quick Shot wasn't the right nickname. You need to be like Marathon Shot or something like that.
Seems to be the case. So we have crested 20 minutes. Splyce, they did get that mid turret a little while ago, and it is accrued that 1,500 gold lead. Triforce and Rapid, Triforce for Cobby, Senkux. Rapid Fire Cannon for Cobby. They have their items. Power Spike. Engage with the package.
Are you just throwing out buzzwords now?
I'm trying to just simplify it.
Engage. Okay, cool. Right. Dragon is not too long coming up now. Is due up in the next couple of minutes, so will be available. This. Whenever I watch a game with Splyce and I look at Dragon play, it takes me right back to the Challenger finals that they played against Mouse when they were Team Dignitas EU. And the games just went to Dragon 5 every single game. And while that's not what they're relying on in every game, it feels like there isn't a whole lot of active decision making from either of these teams. They're very happy to just allow a wave to push out, a wave to come in, a wave to push out, a wave to come in. And it's so difficult to play like that.
It's like reactive play, isn't it? It kind of feels like there's not a leader, a proactive decision maker. We are 60 seconds away from Dragon. Splyce have managed to pick up 6 dragons this split. Giants have managed to pick up 8. Neither team has had the greatest success around those objectives, but when you're 2-7 and 1-9, 1-8 rather, it's obviously significantly harder to get objectives.
It is. It has been, but again, just both teams very willing to sit back. I mean, the fact the package has now been used twice by Splyce to not do anything, that's like 10 minutes of play.
Where is the engage? It's a cocoon and a devour.
It's very true.
So, Splyce are kind of committed to the split push tower pressure game.
That's the thing, is that you can use the package to engage. We saw Perks highlighting that when he was going aggressive into a solo lane, crossing up through the river, going 2-on-1, making sure they had the engage potential there from the knockback package. But, I mean, it's just not there from Splyce, as you're saying. And the fact of the matter is, for Giants, outside of a Q flash from Godfred, they've got no reliable multi-target engage. So again, the Tahm Kench just deals with everything that's sent their way. And now Tom Ken's just recalling away. The rest of Splyce are pushing forward.
Well, this
So
could
you're in
be
this weird situation.
an advantage for Splyce. Very good cocoon onto Godfred. Means Senkax will be able to flash away. But Tongyaka goes forward. Exhaust is now connected. Atom finds Senkax and takes him down. Senkax overreaching and punished for it. Now Trashy's the target, but Tongyaka is trying to pounce forward. There's another twisted advance. Nisbet will eat up Trashy and pull him to safety, but Tongyaka eats a tower shot or two before he's forced to back away, and all of a sudden, Splyce lose the momentum.
Miscommunication by Splyce. Nisbeth was recalling. Senkax was wanting to go forward with the rest of the team. Wonderwear on the meanwhile is up on the top tower, pushing that one through. They're going to lose mid tower for it at least. If they can hold the inner mid tower, this will be worth for them. It is inner for outer.
I don't think they can hold it though.
No. Well, they're pushing up. Yeah, Giants are backing away.
So clever play by Splyce. Teleports come in from Wonderwear. Grand Challenge is available, as is Flash.
Oh, it's 5v4.
Nisbet's taking an Abyssal Voyage. He's jumped forward. Cocoon lands onto Atom. He is down. Grand Challenge has still been held by Wonderwear, and all of a sudden it's now Giants who are punished for overcommitting.
Yeah, neither mid laner was in that engage either. I thought at first it was 5v4, but Senkax had just respawned, was in the base. So Splyce utilizing the Abyssal Voyage, utilizing their teleport. A lot went into that. Can they trade that maybe for the mid inner or the bottom inner for themselves as well? Would be a good situation to be in. No teleport for Atom when he comes up in 20 seconds. So this is Splyce opportunity to actually push through.
There's not enough side lane control. Both bot and top is pushing towards Splyce from Giants. So Splyce needed to have shoved those in maybe before trying to set up on an inner turret siege. Unfortunately, they were unable to do so. So Giants are able to withstand. And this is then Senkax going forward. He even pulled that Valkyrie shorts.
Yeah, just not catching batting. Okay, but the rest of the team just was already backing away as well. Like this, just you can see where Tom Kench is on the minimap there. I mean, at this point, there's no way of going aggressive like this in that situation. Miscommunication by Splyce. Really, really weird to see.
Yeah, not on the same page. And there's also something that I think Jankos was talking about in the pregame, how, you know, this is a single nationality squad. They are speaking literally the same language, but communicating not on the same page.
Yeah, and honestly, right now, you know, I cast Challenger on a Tuesday, so internally I'm actively comparing teams. And I look at some of the teams we have in Challenger, specifically Millennium, and how active they are on the map against Challenger opponents. There is a difference. There is a difference in coordination and map play. But a team like Millennium are very active, going for objectives, going for fights, and I don't see it from either Splyce or Giants. And yes, they've been facing tough opponents, far tougher than the Challenger teams when you look at the likes of Vitality, the likes of Origin, and H2K G2. But there still has to be said that when you're fighting the teams around you, if you have that instinct, it should be showing. And we're not seeing it from either team.
No, definitely not. But I think for Splyce, their game plan has been extremely clearly revealed. Banner of Command on Jungle Elise by Trashy. If you ever wanted more of a signal, they want to just play these side lanes, maybe play the Siege split push game. Farmed Fiora with 70 CS up over Atom, approaching the flame horizon. Well, there is your signal. Giants started the Baron. Yesterday, Giants stole the Baron to win a game. Two-man knockup. And we're going to see Wonderway on the back line. Grand Challenge issued. Atom is already down. The front line for Giants is out. But funneling into that very narrow corridor, Splyce unable to push further. So they'll get a kill and they'll stop the Baron.
Yeah, they funneled right into a Corki, into Fiora damage. Giants thinking that they had the opportunity to go for that Baron, but they're running 3 sweepers, which means that they can control the vision when it comes to wards, but there are 2 blue trinkets on the side of Splyce. They can check it fairly often. Wonderwear's kept the yellow trinket right now, I would assume, just to be able to split push a little bit safer. Is able to drop that ward, it'll stay there for a longer amount of time. Does mean that they won't be able to check a Baron as effectively as if they had 3.
So the 3,000 gold lead, 2,500 gold lead that Splyce has accrued. 2,000 of that is in Wonderwear's pockets. Got himself a Black Cleaver. Got himself the Titanic Hydra. Is 9 CS away from the Flame Horizon, which is a 100 CS advantage over your opponents.
And this is the reasoning for getting that Banner of Command. You can see how much trouble the likes of a Maokai is going to have. And This is just one of the drawbacks of Maokai in general is...
Charm finds Trashy, but he doesn't even flash or need to repel. Nisbet was nearby.
And that drawback is that Maokai is not a champion that can actively hold a lane the later this game goes against a carry like a Fiora, somebody that can continually push in. The same when it comes to a Banner minion. If you got that Banner minion in the bottom side, oh, here comes the teleport into the fight. Where is it coming from? It's inside.
Middle lane, Kobe's going to be the target.
There's no one to protect him.
Rooted by the Twisted Advance. Giants pick up an extremely easy kill.
Nisbeth and Kobe not on the same page. They've got to be near each other if they want this Tahm Kench to actually work for them, and it gives Giants the kill onto the mid tower, and now they're looking to set up for a Baron bait.
That is the exact proactive play that Giants need to do more of. They have the initiation tool, and if they can keep Splyce playing defensively and keep Wonderwear locked, that can be how they open up the opportunity to win this game. Baron, they started to clear out the vision. Pounce available for Baton Yaka, defensive flash from Nisbet. And Giants still playing from behind, still down in gold.
And right now it's all about the bait because Kobe's not available. He's the second blue trinket for Splyce, but Giants are backing away. They don't really want to start this Baron up for themselves, not overly confident in doing it. It gives Splyce a moment to settle themselves. Here comes the, I believe it's the Home Guard and the Righteous Glory used here as well. Always going forward means Atom is going to get that engage onto Kobe. No real way of protecting him. Easy pick, and that's what I mean about Maokai providing simple engage options. There is nothing difficult about the decision that was just made. It was Tahm Kench isn't by him, I'm going on him, that's a kill.
And it allowed Giants to pick up their 4th tower as well. In a turret, middle lane down. Wonderway is pushing in the bottom lane. Look at that very, very quick teleport. Pepe will be joining the fight late. And Wonderway is coming from the flank. I think Senkax may have picked up the package. He is flying out of the base. Trashy will not find a target with a cocoon. And Nisbet, the target. He's not going to be able to devour anyone. Godfrey gets a 2-man knockup. A long-range package delivery. And Senkax sends Pepe home. Atom's on the front line, but not for much longer. He has been felled by the light-slinging passive of Kobe. Kobe's not done yet, as he's taken home beef for dinner, and he's sending the cat back to the pet shop.
The clean ace for Splyce. Triple kill goes on to Kobe, and the package finally gets used by Splyce. They Giants set themselves up to fail in that fight, really trying to start for the Baron, coming back down away from it. Teleport came out from Wonderwear to make sure that they could kite them back down the river, not give them an easy exit route. And Splyce, they've been playing reactive. They may be able to end the game off that.
I was told that as support Tahm Kench wasn't tanky. Splyce say, I do not care for that. In one fell sweep, they take down Giants.
Splyce showing they do have some fangs left when given the opportunity, they can strike.
Punishing opponents' mistakes. Both teams demonstrated an ability to do that in this game. And it got late enough, and there was enough damage on the Splyce side to finish in less than a minute after picking up a strong flanking position.
You have to feel, though, it was the tie for that 8th spot. And the game, you know, in the way it flowed, the way the decision-making went, you know, you wouldn't confuse it for a game for, like, the top spot. It was kind of a messy one. It was a little bit rough. Both teams showing passive play rather than active, you know, continually trying to move forward. And at the end of it, Splyce just found themselves a better team fight, with Giants going aggressive when the package had been picked up. Good package from Senkax going all the way through, splitting up the Giants lineup.
And for Splyce, showing that they are stronger than the 2 teams that are below them, both Giants and Roccat. That is a 2-0 head-to-head against Giants for Splyce, which can come in very important again as the weeks continue to roll on. We're going to start looking at these head-to-heads to determine, you know, tie breaks in the standings. And Splyce, they're on the cusp of that safe zone. 3-7 they are now. Have to beat Elements. They have to prove that they can get better than Elements to make it out of promotion relegation.
They do. It's still a couple of weeks left, so there's still room for improvement from both teams. You can make that push towards the end of the season. We've seen it happen before. Team claw their way up from the bottom, but nevertheless, it's a win here for Splyce.
It is a win, and it was a convincing end to the game. We're going to head over to the analyst desk to take a look at how the day played out.
Thank you so much, Quick Shot. And let's start by this game. Obviously, Giants coming off a win yesterday, and we saw some good things, but maybe they tried too much at the same time.
I mean, at least we saw a decisive comp with a simple goal. And Jankos, you were talking about during the game a little bit that you liked what Giants brought to the table in terms of like gameplay and win conditions.
I mean, I think they had really good idea to play the game. We had the same in Rokan in 2015 summer split, which is just try to pick up Maokai and just go and ham, you know, and you should win because it's just so simple to do it. Just like kind of press the red button and just, I'll go, you know, flash in. So I think the con was good. I think the execution was not too great, but they had the right plan in the game. They were just not good at controlling the Nash vision and like kind of controlling their opponents, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's baby steps, right? Like first you take off the simple comp, and then when you master it, you move on to the more challenging comps, and then eventually you just improve week by week, and then at some point maybe you'll be able to take on the mid-tier teams as well.
And play Malphite as well,
Giants did try a couple of things. We have a replay of something that didn't work out so well, sadly, in the bottom lane when they tried to execute the team fight or the dive, but everything went awry.
I think that's very important right now because they try to force this fight super hard, and at this moment they are ahead. So we see flash hit from Godfred, and overall, like, everything is going fine. I think that TP is kind of, yeah, the TP is fine, but now they prolong the fight, and then Fiora cancels the TP. And right now they should try go and focus on Nisbeth, because yeah, what we see here is that Trashy flashes out, Kobe flashes into Nisbeth, and then Nisbeth is him, and then the fight is kind of over, you know, like you can't do anything. And at this very moment, Corki is pressuring mid, and then Fiora is pressuring top, and Fiora will gain advantage, and at some point he will just destroy Maokai. So I think this fight was like super important in this game.
Yeah, definitely was. And we were talking about the fact that Fiora, we talked about a lot about Wonderwear in general, how he soaks up a lot of resources here again. But this time around, he did manage to get on the champion to do it and do it in the end as well.
Yeah, and he was, more importantly, he was actually pushing out the waves all the way, putting pressure. And obviously on a champion like Fiora, if your team can survive the 4v5s when they get teleported on and he keeps farming, yeah, it's only a matter of time until level 16 Fiora with 2 items happens, and then it's over. Nobody can hold their 1v1 at that point. And Wonderwear did that, a good job doing that. Could have maybe switched to the bottom lane a little sooner, but Splyce just stayed around that Baron for as long as they could, because if they prevented Giants from getting Baron, they had a really good grasp on winning the game.
Let's take a look at the 2 replays that were at the end of the game and define it. First up is a good move, in my opinion, from Giants, where you say it is quite simple in the end with the Maokai. Just go rush it and root someone.
I mean, this is fine, right? Like, they flash in. I'm not sure why Kobe didn't flash out, though. It's all right, you know? And now, like, they try to catch Nisbeth. It's like, okay, it's fine. Like, he can eat someone, but if you go all in on Nisbeth, they are just going to roll over your carries. And we see Fiora here getting into the backline, one-shotting Peppy with, like, 600 crit, going on Adre, 2v1ing. She's just, like, so crazy right now. And they cannot stop him. Like, they can just kind of bend over. Like, I don't see anything they can do here. That's it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, Giants even disengaged from the Baron because they did hear the Corki coming, and then it's like, oh, Corki is coming, better use my ultimate to try to catch the Tahm Kench. It just, like, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they repetitively started rushing that Baron, but most of the time they weren't 5-man, they were like 4-man, and then they kind of figured out in the pit that their Baron was incredibly slow.
Yeah.
And that's such an annoying position to be in, because at that point you've given up every semblance of vision control. You know, the enemy just walks in, watches you do Baron, you disengage, and it's so rough.
I mean, I felt like they bait this Nash to kind of bait the fight, right? Because with Maokai, you shouldn't be able to lose HP on Nash. Like, everyone spams spells, especially Ezra. Like, just spam Q, Maokai heals, it's all right. Like, just try to force the engage. But because they didn't have, like, the good vision control, and they forced the engage kind of bad, and I didn't feel like Ari was flanking good. It just was just too hard, you know? The execution just wasn't there.
And in the end, Splyce books a win after those 10 games. Let's take a look at the standings and how they've settled here in EU. G2, they have climbed back into first place, now tied with H2K once again. Then Vitality and the Unicorns of Love are just 1 game behind at the top spot at 7 and 3. At the bottom of the table, there has been some movement, but in the end, Splyce, Giants, and Rocket still find themselves there. And then middle of the table, Elements making a stand, Origin and Fnatic really trying to get into that top. I'm going to bring it up one more time. Obviously, the top of the table. I don't want to trigger your PTSD, Jankos, but that H2K G2 game, obviously, you said so much depended on that Baron that was stolen, and in that case, there's nothing you can do about it. But what did it make you think about the strength of G2 going forward as maybe someone you might meet in the later stages of the playoffs?
Well, I can't really say much because I've just like kind of take it to myself and I will know what to do next time. But I overall think that Perk is a great player and Trick is kind of good as well, you know. Like he provides a lot of pressure early game. And what's important is that Kikis plays only tanks from what I see. So that's pretty huge. I think people will start like recognizing that and maybe putting more pressure top lane like we did with Queen. In the end we ended up with 3 AD combo, which was not too great, you know, it was meh. But yeah, and Emperor and Hybrid are like really solid players. Like they always hold their own. So.
Yeah, I think we saw some of the strengths there in G2 more in terms of their tenacity. They survived against the poke bot lane from Forgiven for absolute ages. Like if one of those towers fell, H2K would have snowballed the early game and the trickle-down effect would happen. But they hung out just long enough for that not to happen. But I do agree with Jankos. The fact that it is so much Braum on Hybrid, it is only tanks on Kikis. G2 have shown some versatility, but they will need to kind of solve that problem. Otherwise, smarter teams will eventually abuse that in Champ Select.
Yeah, but I do feel like macro-wise still H2K is the more complete team. Like in a way that everything kind of went the wrong way for you guys. Like you had the triple AD against the Malphite, they managed to steal the Baron, you know, and you still like even only towards the very end it looked like you guys were gonna lose, but otherwise it looked like you were in the game.
I mean, I still think we kind of snowballed early game, like not enough, especially that Corgi has so many kills, and we had these close duels in the jungle with Trick. And yeah, the Nash was just huge, you know. I didn't tell my team about the smite, and it's just over. It's like all me. I take.
We're gonna say one more thing about it. One more thing, because we asked people at home to send in questions for Ask a Jungler, and at Funtech Medlife asked, King of Smites, what made you so good in outsmiting other junglers back in the day? Who would it be for? Who would it be for? It's you.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I just got lucky a lot.
So,
no, it's honestly it's just about like timing and guessing. Like smiting, they say it's 50-50, right? And I kind of agree with that. But yeah. It is tricky. Like it's mostly about sequencing and like trying to guess like when they're gonna burst the Baron down with everything. But in the end, it kind of comes down to luck as well. And
if you don't have it, it's 0%, of course.
Kind of, yeah. When I quit playing, junglers were kind of starting to sync their smites with their team, saying like at 1.5k we burn, at 2k. Is that something that has been almost become standard right now?
I think, yeah, it's super standard, and I kind of disagree with the 50-50, just because the team that is doing the Nash can like burst it at some HP, and it's like harder to smite unless you play like, for example, Kindred, and you can outsmart your opponent by ulting like the Nash and he smites, and then you save your smite, something like this. But yeah, the team that is doing the Nash should like kind of win the smite fight in like 80%, unless like Ezreal queues over the wall, then obviously like you cannot really
the hard counter,
that, yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
Last season we had Fnatic that was the Baron team basically. They took it early so many times and got so many advantage of it. Is there already a team in the ELCS that you're very wary of when it comes to Barons?
Well, I don't really think so. I think everyone in ULCS right now struggles when it comes to doing Nash. Like yesterday, we saw us doing the Nash, like the tricky Nash against UL, where we just, like one of them died, and then for some reason, Fox went bot lane, so we just, oh, guys, you know, free Nash, good job. And then they did the same kind of today against, I believe it was Fnatic, yeah. So they still, like, they did the tricky Nash, they just went Nash, Fnatic didn't know, they pulled off the Nash, but I don't see a team being like the Nasher Kings like Fnatic was last season, just doing it and no one expects it, and they do it kind of every game, you know.
I think it kind of stems from the meta game as well. Last season there were other objectives worth taking on the other side of the map, like Dragon had more emphasis on it, and very often they would sneak like second or third Dragon traded for Baron, or at least have people set up for the Dragon vision. You know what? Okay, there is no Baron vision, but right now, because the way these games play out in the early game, all tier 1 towers drop, tier 2s are kind of hard to get. Yeah, double teleports in the side lanes, but there's always enough people around Baron. With the introduction of like 2 or 3 blue trinkets, it becomes so incredibly hard for teams to kind of force a Baron. The only thing you can do is exhaust the blue trinkets and then force a face check.
Yeah.
Which is still pretty hard, because if you have like 3 blue trinkets and then even you have like perfect Nash control.
Yeah, takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Well, today, I believe it was in the UL versus Fnatic game, though, that you guys were calling out the fact that Fnatic hadn't changed their trinkets at all, and at that, we're always at a loss when it came to going for those Barons.
Yeah, I mean, just it's pretty simple, you know, buy more blue trinkets, Fnatic, please.
Yeah, this is a UOL Fnatic game, and just in general, UOL, I mean, we've been discussing so much about how they've evolved, but
Yeah, I mean, in this fight, like we saw Vizzazi perfectly ulting Ari out, and they just kind of won the fight because of it. And in fight, it's the same, you know, like Fox and Steelback doing so much damage from behind. Vizzazi is going in, they cannot kill him, like no way, you know. Kindra is kind of useless at this moment. So yeah, I mean, you all played this this game kind of well, I think. And the Nash helped them super out, super out.
Yeah, I do really want to give props to how Vizicachi has improved as a player, because some of his ultimates in these fights were just really good. The zone they used it in different ways. Sometimes he goes in, combos it, you know, to set up for his team to catch up. Other times he just uses it to knock people away from a tower. And Steelback as well as a carry, he kind of went unnoticed. Very often when I feel like when I'm casting the game, I'm looking at this guy, but never at Steelback. But then at the end of the game, he's like 2-0 and 8. Deals a ton of damage, never gets caught, and just, he cleans up. It's like the meme itself where he's the clean up 80 carry, but he does it very well.
Yeah, everything's working in that team. When we had Shook and Amazing here on the desk, we asked him a little bit about Rudy, we asked him a little bit about Spirit. Let's talk a bit about the strength of junglers. They had a couple of things to say about the fact that it's very hard to, in the top of the tables, see very big differences between the junglers. What do you think, Jankos?
I mean, I think the game is evolving our team play right now, so we don't really see people snowballing hard. And like I said in one of my interviews, I really believe in the right play. So for example, if someone is playing passive and he should like kind of invade and pressure them up, like he's just doing it wrong, you know. He's not playing passive, he's playing bad kind of. So I think, yeah, it's hard to see differences, but I think in scrims it's kind of easier because people play like more like ballsy, if I can say that, you know. Like they just kind of do more stuff. Like for example, Shug in scrim is just a god, you know. But when we see him on stage, like even though this week he played really good, like I didn't feel like last week, for example, he made that big of a difference, you know. So I think we still have to wait a bit for it, but yeah.
Now, do you think like Rek'Sai is going to be kind of falling out of the meta, because it just seems like every time Rek'Sai is kind of played, the enemy jungler picks Nidalee or Kindred and just constantly invades the Rek'Sai player and just puts so much pressure on the map, and the Rek'Sai just is really cornered in his own jungle and can't really do much?
I mean, I feel like if you pick Rek'Sai, you kind of want to gank like level 3, level 4 maybe, just because that's like one of the few junglers that actually has CC, if Ellie is banned right now. So we will still see her, and as well like her ult provides a lot of global pressure. Like for example, yesterday I couldn't dive Vizzazi like 3-4 times, even though it was super easy to bait Rudy, like he was still there, so we couldn't do much. But yeah, she may fall off just because the early game junglers are just so much stronger right now, and we see like Kindred, Nidalee being played, and they just farm the jungle so fast, and at the same time they provide so much pleasure, and they are like really strong duelists and really strong at 2v2, 3v3. Yeah, like we will see more of them.
Yeah, I mean, Nidalee and Kindred especially. This week, 6 picks for Nidalee, 4 picks for Kindred, then Rek'Sai at 4, then Lee Sin and Elise. So Nidalee, this is the ongoing debate of forever. Is she good? Is she not good? Right now, it seems that she is the absolute S tier for jungle.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people just... I myself was just very anti-Nidalee at the start of the season because I thought she really didn't deliver much. The ganks were too conditional. But then after talking to some people and just seeing people improve in their Nidalee play, they kind of stopped using it for early ganks, and they just went for really abusing the fast clear time. Basically saying a challenge to the enemy jungler: if your gank fails at level 3 or 4, I will just take all my camps and your camps. I'm now a level up. We'll find you in the jungle, I'll duel you and I'll pressure you, especially in a turret-centric meta. That seems to fit very well, and a lot of these, at least top-level junglers in Europe, have really adopted that playstyle for Nidalee, and it's, yeah, giving the benefits.
I mean, yeah, it's not only about the farm itself, it's also about counter-jungling your opponent, because if he doesn't have farm, like, he will still like be behind. And also the fact that she's just so mobile around the map. I mean, you see her top lane, and then in like 10-15 seconds she could be bot lane, which like any other jungler wouldn't be able to do so unless he just straight up runs, and probably he is still slower. So I think, yeah, that's her strength. And then, yeah, obviously like she's so strong. If you get hit by the spear, you get one-shotted. It's really tough to play against her, but like any champ, like you could probably pick Elise or Kindred, and then it's hard for her to hit the spear, and then if you hit Cocoon, for example, maybe you can out-trade her, but still, like, she clears jungle so much faster, and she's so much more mobile that she just pressures the maps. And like you said, I was like skeptic about this pick as well. I didn't like it at all, but it seems like it's kind of coming back. And in 2015 it was worse just because it was harder to get wards, but right now, yeah, I mean, you just have like the green smite and you just have wards, so yeah, it pressures the maps really well.
Do you think like the new flavor of the month of going Strength of the Ages benefits Nidalee a lot, because it kind of eliminates her weakness of not being able to jump in because you are not tanky enough, and it's also really easy to stack the Strength of the Ages early game and just have this like snowballing advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge, and it's huge for Lee Sin as well, because those are two champs that you always go like full offense early game, and then if you have this mastery, it just makes you a lot more tanky, and then the smite cooldown, the flash, it's pretty big. I think like just because of this mastery, she actually become like even better. If you play Thunderlord, it's still fine, but like the damage is not as efficient as the health on Nidalee. So I think that this mastery makes her like more powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew about the Strength of Ages, kind of, because we saw Korea bring it, but the point about the wards is actually something that I didn't quite realize is just because counter jungling becomes so much more efficient if you can just litter the enemy jungle with the wards, because then you just always know where the enemy jungler is. So those combined factors do seem to be the reason why Nidalee is back.
Yep. Well, that question is answered then. For now, let's answer one other question that someone sent in. For Ask a Jungler, at Wade Ross 1 writes, what is the most important thing for a new jungler to learn, to focus on, to improve? Maybe some lessons for Rudy, maybe getting into the LCS.
Well, first of all, you have to play Lee Sin, because I feel like Lee Sin is like the kind of the hardest champ, like in terms of mechanical play. So if you are like good Lee Sin, you can start other champs. And then like the decision making is important. Like the difference between, for example, solo queue jungler and like competitive jungler is that solo queue jungler always going for ganks, you know. So with Rudy, it's just that at every time, like every game, you know, he goes for these ganks instead of pressuring the map. I feel like in those 4 matches, you know. So it's just it kind of, you know. Like early game is very important to gank a lot, but at some point you have to pressure the map more than actually like care about the kills. So that's like pretty huge, yeah.
All right, Jankos now answered the question for pro play more, and I'm a filthy casual, so I'll just answer for you solo queue players out there. And I think like one of the most important things that new jungler mains don't do is like look at the lanes, because it's really important to keep track of like the first of all, like which lanes you have. Like if you have an Irelia lane, for example, it's really easy to gank for that lane, obviously. And on the other hand, like just checking like the HPs of the enemy top laners, not top laners, every laners, and
Sorry, I get flashbacks from top lane, please.
And just in general, like having good map awareness and actually moving your camera and not just focusing on yourself.
All right, thanks for that. Let's take a look at who was our fantasy leader. Actually, it's not that big of a surprise. Kikis is standing tall as a fantasy point leader for the day, picking up 9 kills and 9 assists for a total of 34 points. However, you guys signaled, maybe it's a weakness, the fact that he has only been going to those tanks. I feel like it's something that he would be able to do, because even in the jungle he pulled out the crazy carry pick. So
I mean, he plays the tanks fine, and it works well for G2. I just think, looking back at the game, I feel if that game gets played out like 5 times, yeah, 1 or 2, G2 hangs on in the early game, but the other 3 or 4 times, they just crumble, lose all their turrets, and then Malphite's useless. That's kind of the difference between Malphite, what we saw in the G2 game, versus the one in Origin. If you get pressured in so much, your engages are so obvious that it becomes very hard to force, but he did perform well. The only other critique we had was the Spirit Visage. I don't know if you guys watched the game, like why he built Spirit Visage.
well, he was in it.
Third, I don't know.
I mean, I have no clue why he went for that build. I think maybe faster Tormail would be better, or like more like tank items for like armor. But I think he played pretty well the game, and even though Trick helped him quite a lot in the early game, I feel like he was a big reason why we lost this game. And if we wouldn't let him play Malphite, I think the game could look way different. So I'm looking forward to see more of my Polish Freund, you know, and maybe he will pull off something more interesting than just tanks.
We will see. And outside of the fantasy land of fantasy points, we've picked 5 heavy hitters that brought their best to the stage in week 5. First up is Nukeduck with a 16 KDA for vitality and fantastic performance. Jankos, I know you guys are really good friends.
Yeah, we are really good friends. I mean, kinda, you know, we banter each other a lot. I think Nukeduck is like a great player. I mean, if this guy gets help, like he just smashed everyone. And pick like GP or Zilan is perfect for him, just because he can kind of farm the early game and then do stuff around the map. And yeah, like he's a great team fighter. His mechanics are on point, and I think at some point Vitality could be the best team just because of this guy.
I definitely think it's worth for fans for Nukeduck and Jankos to just follow them on Twitter, because there's a couple of shots being fired. Nukeduck actually said today that he loves playing supportive champions because he finally has a jungler that can carry, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if my mid lane hacks turret for like 20 minutes every game, every single game, then it's hard for me to actually invade enemy jungle, you know. That's why Ryu is like a blessing.
Yeah. I mean, on that, in general, it's been 2 weeks now. with Selfie. So how have you guys been adapting? How do you think it's been better this week? Because Selfie actually is putting up a really good score in these games.
I think Selfie is pretty good, yeah. I mean, I think that his pressure and his roam are not as on point as Ryu's, but overall, I think he's a great player, and I think if he goes to EcoFox or stay with us for like a couple of more weeks, I think he can become like one of the greater mid laners. And as for now, he's performing. Like, I think we wouldn't find a better sub than Selfie right now. I think he's really good.
All right, let's take a look at another mid laner who we thought did really well or is doing quite well this split. It is Fox for the Unicorns of Love. There was some discussion though about how good he's doing in these games, but he is racking up the wins, and I feel like he's just having more of an influence than I've seen him have in the summer of 2015.
I mean, for me, it's hard to judge because I don't really think he's like performing that great, but it seems like, yeah, 34% of like team damage, and overall against us he didn't have much pressure, but like he delivered today. So yeah, I think he's improving quite a lot. I think it's nice to watch him.
He just understands his role, I think, within the Unicorns, and I think he shines when everybody else is working well. But then he just contributes a lot. In a lot of these team fights, he was just doing exactly what he needed to do. You know, go aggressive, put the ultimate down, not afraid to play with his team. And I think the Unicorns' strength right now is more their synergy rather than just individual players, and that is something surprising to say about the Unicorns if you compare it to the past.
Yeah, very good for them. Someone else in our OP list, we actually talked about him a lot of times already. Kiki's 18 KDA versus H2K, and just in general a lot of good stuff, but let's move on to a teammate of his, Emperor, if only for the Q steal on Baron.
I mean, yeah, like this guy deserves OP just because of the Q steal. I think like he was so good, and then overall, like he always holds his own. I never saw Emperor doing bad, you know. Like maybe he's not like the carry, top like AD carry, but he's always doing the right thing. Okay, don't watch that. But yeah, I mean, he's just great player overall. Like he's always doing what he has to do. He never gets caught randomly, and yeah, he's performing. You know, I would say that he's really good.
Yeah. He also just has what seems like a very natural laning phase. It's really weird to describe that. And he seems to click very well with Hybrid because they can take kind of losing matchups and come out even in CS and not ever get in risk of getting dove, and that's actually very impressive overall. So the only thing you can fault him for is a couple aggressive flashes that he makes, but I love players that rather flash too aggressively rather than never at all. And he just performs pretty consistently for G2.
Performs consistently, but also when you told about Steelback more of cleaning up, I actually feel the same about a lot of AD carries now, even though in the beginning of the split we've said, you know, this is it for the AD carries who can carry alone. Who strays from that? Forgiven? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Forgiven, kinda, you know, like every game we try to play around him and he gets the lead, he never leaves the lead, like he kinda snowballs the game really hard and we can always rely on him. So I think that's the main difference, but also I think we are putting a lot of resources to him, even though not always he's getting the farm that he should, but at least in laning phase we kinda focus on him a lot if we feel like we should. And I think every time like he gets the lead, he snowballs really hard, and it's just tough for opponents to actually do stuff against him, yeah.
Yeah, funnily enough, it was said that now is the season for AD carries to shine, and then mid laners and top laners are like, I think AD carries are pretty good right now, so let's take up Corki and Lucian and Quinn as well.
Yeah, steal them away. Now, from watching Forgiven play and playing with him, he really has that like kind of snowball-centric playstyle. I wonder if it will ever be used against him, because it seems very hard to convince Forgiven to give up a wave of farm, to maybe play safe and not go for the 50. You know, if I dodge the hook here, yeah, then I'm fine. But if I get hooked here, I may lose my life and the farm. But we'll have to see how that plays out. As for the Emperor point, I feel like Emperor is still a little more aggressive than Steelback. I mean, Steelback plays very fine in the back parts of the fight, but it feels that Emperor is just not afraid to just go ham in team fights. But it has cost him a couple of times, especially when teleports are involved.
Yeah, but I also feel like Forgiven is one of these players who has improved the most. Like, he was always the top-notch AD carry mechanically, but like in the past when I saw him play, I always saw him like farm the side lanes and he has like 400 CS in 30 minutes, but then the game is kind of just lost because it's a 4v5, right? But now he's actually like playing a lot more with the team and contributing more, and
the pro effect.
The pro effect, exactly. I mean, I think that we don't give him, like, enough farm sometimes, just because he's trying to play with us a lot. But I think his decision making and overall like the coaching of Proli helps him a lot. And I think overall like we are kind of smart, and he's smart, and if we work together, we can achieve great things.
I mean, he also
What
had
a politician.
He also had a passage on a couple of different teams and in that Gambit. And when we look actually at the roster, we were bringing this up. A lot of the players that were on Gambit last split, like a Betsy, like a Cabochard, like a Forgiven, they're all doing well in their own right. Their teams might not always be winning like Roccat, but there seems to be something there.
Yeah, more importantly, so when we did the jungle gravity segment, we started looking at, okay, Betsy's doing well, why? You know, because Airwax is spending 30% of his time in the early game next to him. Forgiven's doing well, we guess. Why? Because Vander and Jankos work together a lot for vision, or find the enemy jungler, or just make sure that the Forgiven lane is 2v2 where he can then abuse his superior laning ability. And then if in the top lane, Cabochard is still doing well because his jungler is still enabling him. Just wanted to bring up the discussion how these like 3 members that were on Gambit, a struggling team overall, now are shining individually because they're all getting the jungle pressure they deserve or need.
Yeah, I mean, in the last season it was a bit as well, like Diamond Prox was playing a lot around Cabochard as well, but I really think like Cabochard last season was also like the shining light for Gambit, but that's was the best player in the team, but also because of the fact that he was being played around.
Yeah, I mean, right now we still see Shug just kind of camping Cabochard's lane. For example, yesterday he tried to focus more about like to play around Emperor, you know, and Hjarnan, and it worked pretty well for them. But even though like before that he was bot lane, he picked up like 3 waves, he was 6 super fast because of it, and then he used it. So yeah, I really like the Cabochard play with Shug. I think it's like impressive to watch, but I think it may cost the team a bit too much when it comes to like early and mid game, so he can't always be top, but as long as he is and they are winning, maybe yeah.
We might mention Cabochard a bit further on. We do have one more OP player though. It's also an AD carry. It's Reckless, and it might not seem like he's having the team in his back pocket a lot of times, but he is doing more and more. We know he has that shot calling role as well. We wanted to highlight him.
Yeah, Reckless, despite losing, did a lot of damage. It can't be understated. When I watched the end of the game, the damage graph was way out. It was like the Fine Forgiven, but this time Fine Reckless overall, because a lot of people can't put it in perspective. Like 1,000 damage a minute is absolutely insane. That's comparable to that Jinx AoE crit game we had at Worlds where we tracking, I don't know who it was, I think Ziv, no, not Ziv, but I think it was NL maybe, or either NL or Kramer that had that crazy game at Worlds. That was 1,000 damage per minute. That was what Reckless was pulling in these games. He just was doing so much damage with the Muramana that eventually went out of mana and he couldn't keep it up in the game anymore, but he, yeah, delivered at least.
Yeah, it's actually the most damage per minute that anyone's done for the entire week. So he's in really well despite that. Fnatic, though, 1-1. We do have to crown an MVP, and carrying the hardest above all else for us was Vitality's Cabochard. Not the biggest surprise. 21 KDA this week, 0 deaths as Fiora and Grace, making him a well-deserved MVP. I think it was a long time coming, obviously. What a good player.
I mean, for me, it's like kind of hard to say. I mean, okay, so he's a great player, I can tell you that, yes, but I wonder if he could perform on tanks as well as he performs on the carries. But I guess as long as Cassing and maybe Shu can perform at the tanks, then it's all right, you know. The Cabochard is like the shining light in Vitality still, because if Shug goes there, then Cabochard will always get ahead no matter what. And he's just this kind of lane bully. He always wins lane. He always looks for the counter pick as well, and that's what helps him win the lane as well. So, I mean, he's a great player, you know, and there is a reason why people play around him.
I think you can compare in some aspects to Forgiven in the top lane, in the fact that he will always understand how to kind of abuse a matchup. If he has the winning matchup, you can bet your money in it that it will be abused, and eventually something will crack. Either the jungler will come and dive the top laner. I've spoken to some junglers that have dynamic queue with Cabo, and they're like, yeah, it's so easy to play with Cabochard. I just go top at level 3 or 4 and we dive the guy, as opposed to some other top laners that have well versatility in playstyle, but Cabochard doesn't seem to need it so far. But I do hope for playoffs when we reach like best of 5s that we see some versatility, because it just adds so much to your draft if your top laner can play every style.
Yeah, and especially in this draft also today, you would have thought that maybe Vitality would have needed a tank, but they had such a crisp game plan, and then going bottom, they get it rolling. But you can't always think that's going to happen. Or is that, if they can keep coming out with those game plans, it is a sure deal?
I mean, Origin did leave it open, and
yeah,
if you look at Cabochard's champion pool, he had played Grace before, he had played similar champions where he can pressure like that, so it's a little bit of both. But we can't fault him for picking the right champion and then playing it to perfection.
Yeah.
I kind of do feel like it was like Vitality's plan to win the game early game, because if it does go like equal longer on, they kind of start losing. And I think in that game, like the most brilliant thing was like, do you think it was like consciously planned that they baited the TP of Soaz on bot lane? Because it always seemed like...
You mean on the top lane tower?
No, baited on the top lane tower. But like Shuk was always going in and out like really aggressively. And then like instantly when the TP comes, like they back out so fast. Do you think they actually did it like planning, okay, he's going to TP. And when he does, then we all go bot lane and then we kill everyone?
I think it was more that, okay, so we try to bait the TP, and if they TP, like we back out, and then when they saw the opportunity, they were just like, okay, let's TP and let's dive, straight up, because, well, if he would TP, then he would be super behind top lane, and then he did not TP, he cancelled, so they just dived. So I don't think there was much that Origin could do in that situation. I think like maybe something early game would affect the game more, like if they would play like something like kind of better early,
Yeah, I just really like teams that have the ability to quickly communicate and back off of a teleport play. Say, okay, this isn't the time, we will get screwed over if we commit. But then right after that, use the teleport advantage. And that's what Vitality, I think, did really well. Just they understood lane pressure in all lanes. They understood the jungling, pathing. They understood, like, especially the teleport plays, and that definitely put them a level above Origin.
We'll see if they can continue that too in a week for Vitality, because the EU LCS Spring rematches continue next week at 6 p.m. Central European Time, 9 a.m. Pacific, as Elements take on Origin. Later on, we'll have our match of the week as Fnatic faces off against G2. Nice matchup. I mean, obviously, Fnatic has to make a statement somewhere. Can they do it in this one, Cyanide?
I think it's possible, yeah. Like, G2's games weren't the most... No, wait, I'm talking out of my butt right now. But I do think Fnatic has been steadily improving, and if they keep it up, they might be able to take on G2 as long as they have like the good game plan going into the game and good picks.
Instead of the Banner of Command ZZ Rot Nautilus, I want to see the Banner of Command ZZ Rot Nasus coming out of Gamsu, just wrecking those tanks.
The style.
If there's one lane that you can abuse that will play a tank, it's Kikis, and then just get that Nasus go late game. Other than that, on an actual serious note, I think G2 look better.
I wasn't serious?
No. Oh. I think G2 look better, but Fnatic could make enough progression in a week to put up a good fight, because they have looked a little shaky at times. G2.
Yeah. Reckless also said in an interview that he thinks that Klei's map awareness is near that of Yellow Stars. I don't know if I'd say that after a week, but...
could become that, or be close to that of Yellow Stars, but it might be in there, but yeah. We'll see. We'll
see. And you don't have to wait until Thursday for more LCS. Week 5 continues rather over in North America. Tomorrow at 9 p.m. Central European Time, noon Pacific, Echo Fox goes up against Renegades, and Cloud9 will do battle against Team Liquid. And on Sunday, it is their match of the week between Energy and CLG. We'll be looking forward to those. But sadly, for us here in Europe, that is all from us here in Berlin. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to Jankos, Cyanide, and all the other pros that lent an analytical eye and some fantastic one-liners for Jungle Week. And of course, to all of you guys for tuning in. Until next time, we'll catch you on the Rift.
All right.
GG.
Take the field. OG and Vitality. One game separates these two right now. And the spear forces the flash, and combo! 4 kills in the pocket ain't no thing.
If we don't do shit after, it's not working. Look. She's gonna die, she's gonna die. She's dead. Good job.
Vitality, 32 minutes and 15 seconds.
Now Chachi's in a little bit of trouble. Dancer Barrow's going forward. Look at the charm onto Hilly. He manages to get popped. Hilesang is not spurred forward, but he gets bumped backwards immediately. Chachi throws down the hammer, and the verdict is you are out of here. You are well. Go 2-0 over Fnatic. Baron will be down before it's done. 2,000 hit points is dropping. The barrels come out. We stole it with a mystic shot. Emperor might have saved the day. And G2 get revenge on H2K.
You will never get me there.
Okay. I was not close to the wall, right? So you're saying that I was just standing at the wall and not flashing? Okay.
No.
TP. Kill the TP.
No, Pindu don't. Alright, good up.
No. Is that 3 members of Rocket are running, and a long-range dash. Steve jumps onto the back line. Tabs was killed over by Ica in the mid. Steve with a gigantic smile on his face. Element take down Rocket. the target. He's not going to be able to devour anyone. Godfrey gets a two-man knockup, a long-range package delivery, and Senkak sends Peppy home. One fell sweep. They take down Giants.